The Zephyrian hegemony had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their empire stretched across 247 worlds, each one conquered with ruthless efficiency. Supreme Chancellor Vexthen stood 8 feet tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the bridge lights of the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. His compound eyes reflected the blue-green marble that hung in the void ahead. Earth, the latest world to be absorbed into the hegemony. Such a small thing. Vexthen clicked to his aide, General Kexamore. Yet intelligence reports suggest they've achieved faster than light travel. Curious for such primitive mammals. The Eternal Dominion led a fleet of 200 vessels, each one capable of glassing entire continents. Behind them came the subjugation forces. Troop transports, orbital bombardment platforms, and administrative ships to process the new slave population. It was the same formula that had worked for millennia. "Send the standard transmission," Vexthen commanded. The communication array hummed to life, broadcasting on all frequencies toward the small blue world. The message was simple, translated into the dominant human languages by the hegemony's vast databases. "People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Zephyrian hegemony. Submit to our authority. Kneel before your new masters. Resistance will result in the complete annihilation of your species. You have one standard cycle to comply." On Earth, the message reached every screen, every radio, every connected device simultaneously. In the United Nations building in New York, emergency sessions convened. In military command centers across the globe, alarms blared. In homes around the world, families gathered around their televisions, watching the impossible unfold. But in a classified facility buried beneath the Colorado Rockies, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Colonel Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display showing the alien fleet. Her enhanced physiology allowed her to process the tactical data faster than any normal human could comprehend. Behind her, 36 other figures stood in perfect formation, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. "Phantom Corps," she said, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's hopes. "We trained for this day. We prepared for this moment. They want us to kneel." She turned to face her soldiers, men and women who had volunteered for procedures that pushed the boundaries of human capability. "What do? "We stand," came the unified response. Above them, Admiral Marcus Torres paced the bridge of the Earth defense ship Defiant. The vessel was one of 12 that humanity had managed to build in secret over the past decade. Ever since long-range sensors had detected the approach of something vast and hostile from the depths of space. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving responses from the lunar colonies, Mars outposts, and the asteroid mining stations. They're all reporting the same thing. The aliens are demanding immediate surrender." Torres nodded grimly. Humanity had spread across the solar system in the past 50 years, establishing footholds on every major body. They were no longer confined to a single world, and that would be their first advantage. "Send the reply," Torres commanded. The transmission that left Earth was brief, broadcast on the same frequencies the aliens had used. It contained only 5 words, spoken in the clear, steady voice of UN Secretary-General Maria Santos. "We choose to stand." On the Eternal Dominion, the response caused a moment of stunned silence. In 3,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had received many responses. Pleas for mercy, offers of conditional surrender, desperate attempts at negotiation, but never outright defiance. "Impossible," General Kexamore buzzed. "They must not understand the situation. Show them." Vexthen's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his species. "Indeed. Target their lunar settlements. Demonstrate our power." 3 heavy cruisers broke formation and moved toward Earth's moon. Their particle cannons charged with deadly energy, preparing to turn the small human outposts into craters. The demonstration would be quick, clean, and devastating. But as they approached, something unexpected happened. The lunar surface erupted in a coordinated barrage of missile fire. Hidden launch sites that had been camouflaged as simple mining operations revealed themselves, sending hundreds of projectiles screaming toward the approaching ships. The alien shields flared under the assault, but these were no ordinary missiles. Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent 8 years developing the quantum-tipped warheads, weapons that could phase through energy barriers and strike the hull directly. The lead cruiser's shields meant nothing as the first salvo penetrated its defenses. The ship listed, then exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the lunar landscape. Impossible. Vex then shrieked, his compound eyes focusing on the tactical display. They're primitives. They shouldn't have weapons capable of. His words were cut off as more alerts flooded the bridge. The remaining lunar attack ships were retreating. But now other contacts were appearing throughout the system. Mars was launching fighters. The asteroid belt was coming alive with defensive platforms. And from behind Earth's moon, ships were emerging. Sleek, angular vessels that bore no resemblance to the crude chemical rockets the hegemony's intelligence had predicted. Analysis, Vex then demanded. His science officer, a pale creature with 4 arms and eyes like black pearls, worked frantically at his console. Chancellor, these readings are unprecedented. Their vessels appear to be using some form of quantum manipulation for propulsion. Energy signatures suggest directed fusion weaponry far beyond their supposed technological level. The human fleet spread out in a defensive formation. 12 ships against 200. The odds were hopeless, but Admiral Torres had learned something important about his species during the decades of preparation. Humans had a talent for making the impossible merely improbable. All ships, engage at will, he commanded. Show them what we've learned. The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment everything changed. The human ships moved with impossible grace, their quantum drives allowing them to shift direction and speed in ways that defied conventional physics. They struck like silver daggers, hitting the alien fleet from unexpected angles and vanishing before return fire could find them. But the real surprise came when the Phantom Corps revealed themselves. Colonel Chen watched from the bridge of the stealth ship Ghostwalker as it materialized directly above the alien flagship. The vessel's cloaking technology, developed from theories that had once been considered science fiction, had allowed them to approach undetected. "Boarding teams, prepare for insertion," she commanded. The soldiers around her were humanity's finest, enhanced with cybernetic implants, genetic modifications, and training that had pushed them beyond the limits of baseline human capability. Each one was worth a dozen conventional soldiers, and they were about to prove it. The boarding pods launched silently, their stealth coating making them invisible to the alien sensors. They struck the Eternal Dominion's hull like hammers, and the Phantom Corps poured into the ship's corridors. What followed was a masterclass in human warfare. The aliens had expected to face frightened primitives with crude weapons. Instead, they found themselves fighting opponents who moved like ghosts, struck like lightning, and seemed to anticipate their every move. Colonel Chen led the advance toward the bridge, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to dodge particle beam fire that would have vaporized a normal human. Behind her, Sergeant Rodriguez used his cybernetic arm to rip through a bulkhead, while Lieutenant Park's neural implants hacked into the ship's systems, turning the aliens' own security drones against them. Bridge secured, Chen reported as the last of the bridge crew fell. She approached the command console, her technical training allowing her to understand the alien displays. "Torres, I'm transmitting the enemy fleet's tactical data now." On the Defiant, Admiral Torres received the intelligence and smiled grimly. The alien fleet was powerful, but they were using predictable formations and tactics. They had become complacent after millennia of easy victories. "All ships, Pattern 7, he commanded. "Let's show them how humans fight when we're cornered." The human fleet executed a maneuver that would have been impossible without the precise coordination their quantum communication systems allowed. They converged on the alien formation from multiple vectors, their weapons targeting the fleet's command ships with surgical precision. One by one, the massive alien vessels began to fall. Their shields, designed to deflect primitive nuclear weapons, proved inadequate against humanity's directed energy weapons. Their hulls, built to withstand conventional explosives, cracked under the assault of quantum disruption torpedoes. But the most devastating weapon humanity deployed was something the aliens had never encountered: adaptability. As the battle raged, human forces constantly modified their tactics, learning from each engagement and sharing that knowledge instantaneously across the fleet. The aliens, bound by rigid doctrine and hierarchical command structures, could not adapt quickly enough. Within 6 hours, the mighty Zephyrian fleet was in full retreat. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Chancellor Vexthan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed by creatures he had dismissed as primitive mammals. The survivors were falling back in disorder, their formation shattered. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They were supposed to be inferior. Our intelligence said. Your intelligence was wrong." Vexthan spun to see Colonel Chen standing in the doorway of his bridge, her armor scared but intact, her weapon trained on his thorax. Behind her, the rest of the Phantom Corps had secured the ship. "You came here expecting to find primitives," Chen continued, stepping closer. "You thought we would kneel because every other species had knelt, but you made one crucial mistake." "What mistake?" Vexthan demanded. Chen's smile was cold as space itself. "You forgot that humans don't kneel. We adapt. We overcome. And when something threatens our home, we fight with everything we have." She activated her communicator. "Torres, patch me through to the Galactic communication network. I want every world in the hegemony to hear this." The transmission went out across the galaxy, carried by the same relay systems the hegemony used to maintain control over their empire. On hundreds of worlds, billions of beings heard the words that would change everything. "This is Colonel Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Forces. Today, the Zephyrian hegemony came to Earth demanding our surrender. We refused. Their fleet lies broken in our system, their flagship captured, their leader our prisoner. Let this be a message to all who would threaten humanity. We do not kneel. We do not surrender. We stand. We fight. And we win." The galaxy listened in stunned silence as the transmission ended. On world after world, species that had lived under the hegemony's rule for generations began to whisper of something they had almost forgotten: hope. The reckoning. 48 hours after the first battle, the galaxy watched as the greatest fleet in Zephyrian history assembled at the edge of the Sol system. Supreme Admiral Zekthul commanded over 1,000 vessels, pulled from every corner of the hegemony. The defeat of Chancellor Vexthan had sent shockwaves through the Empire, and the response had to be overwhelming. "This ends now," Zekthul declared from the bridge of the massive battlecruiser Inevitable Victory. Unlike Vexthan, he was a veteran of the hegemony's expansion wars, a soldier who had personally overseen the conquest of 37 worlds. "These humans will serve as an example to any who would dare defy us." The fleet was a testament to the hegemony's power. Planet killers capable of cracking worlds, carrier ships housing millions of battle drones, and siege platforms that could maintain orbital bombardment for years. It was a force that had never known defeat. But humanity had not been idle during those 48 hours. Deep in the asteroid belt, mining platforms that had operated for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. What had appeared to be simple resource extraction operations were actually construction facilities, churning out weapons and ships using materials harvested from the rocky debris of the solar system's formation. Admiral Torres stood in the command center of Sarah Station, watching as the last of the hidden fleet emerged from concealment. Humanity's deception had been decades in the making. Every mining operation, every research station, every seemingly innocent deep space facility had been designed with this moment in mind. Final count. "Admiral," his aide reported, 247 combat vessels operational. An additional 300 support ships and orbital platforms ready for engagement. Torres nodded, then activated the fleet-wide communication channel. This is Admiral Torres to all ships. Today we face the largest armada in galactic history. They come here to destroy us, to make us an example for the rest of the galaxy. They believe their numbers guarantee victory. He paused, looking out at the stars where humanity's children had learned to thrive. They're about to learn why you never corner a human. On Earth, the Phantom Court had been reinforced by every special operations unit humanity possessed. Colonel Chen stood before an assembly of 2,000 enhanced soldiers, the finest warriors their species had ever produced. Intelligence indicates the enemy intends to board our stations and conduct ground operations on Earth itself, she told them. They want to break our will through overwhelming force. They want to prove that resistance is futile. Her augmented eyes glowed with inner fire. We're going to prove them wrong. The assembled soldiers responded with a roar that echoed through the underground facility. They had trained for this moment, sacrificed their normal lives to become something more than human. Now they would justify every moment of pain, every enhancement, every sacrifice. Dr. Elena Vasquez activated the final phase of humanity's preparation. Across the solar system, quantum communication arrays came online, linking every human facility into a single coordinated network. Earth's AI systems, developed in secret over the past 2 decades, began analyzing the approaching fleet and calculating optimal response strategies. System integration complete, she reported to Torres. Every weapon, every ship, every soldier is now part of the network. We have achieved perfect tactical coordination. It was an achievement that would have been impossible for most species, but humans had always excelled at cooperation when survival was at stake. The Zephyrian fleet approached with the confidence of inevitable victory. Their formation was a classic hammer and anvil arrangement, designed to crush any resistance through overwhelming firepower. They had used the same tactics to conquer hundreds of worlds. But as they entered the outer solar system, they encountered something unprecedented. The space around them erupted in coordinated fire from every direction. Hidden weapons platforms in the asteroid belt, concealed ships among the outer planets, and mobile units that had been drifting dark for days suddenly revealed themselves in a symphony of destruction. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Impossible. Admiral Zekthol roared as his flagship shuddered under the assault. Where did they get so many ships? Our intelligence reported only 12 vessels. His tactical officer, an insectoid creature with multiple eyes that allowed him to process vast amounts of data simultaneously, worked frantically at his console. Admiral, they're using the entire system as a battlefield. Every asteroid, every moon, every debris field has been weaponized. It's not just ships. It's an integrated defense network spanning billions of cubic kilometers. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Zephyrian fleet, designed for conventional warfare against single worlds, found themselves fighting an entire stellar system that had been transformed into a fortress. Human ships struck from unexpected angles, using gravity wells and planetary shadows to mask their approach. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields created crossfire zones that trapped entire enemy squadrons. And through it all, the quantum communication network allowed perfect coordination between forces separated by millions of kilometers. But the real shock came when the Phantom Corps went on the offensive. Colonel Chen led a boarding action against the inevitable victory itself, but this time she had brought an army. Stealth ships materialized throughout the enemy fleet, disgorging enhanced soldiers onto dozens of vessels simultaneously. The Zephyrians, accustomed to fighting defensive actions against desperate rebels, found themselves facing coordinated military operations conducted by soldiers who seemed to anticipate their every move. On the bridge of the inevitable victory, Admiral Zekthol watched in growing horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. Ship after ship fell silent as human boarding parties seized control. His own vessel shuddered as explosions echoed through the corridors. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the humans." "Put it through," Zekthol commanded, his voice tight with rage and fear. Colonel Chen's image appeared on the main screen. She stood in what was clearly the bridge of a Zephyrian vessel, with captured alien officers kneeling in the background. "Admiral Zekthal," she said calmly, "I am Colonel Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Forces. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are either destroyed or captured. Your soldiers are either dead or surrendering. I'm offering you the same choice your people offered us: submit or be destroyed." Zekthal's compound eyes flared with fury. "Never. The hegemony will send more fleets. We will glass your world and everyone on it." Chen's expression didn't change. "No, you won't. Because this isn't just about Earth anymore." The transmission expanded to show a galactic map. Red dots marked worlds throughout the hegemony. And as they watched, the dots began turning blue. "Your oppressed subjects have been watching our battle," Chen continued. "They've seen that the mighty hegemony can be defeated. Rebellions are breaking out across 17 sectors. Your garrison fleets are either joining the rebels or being destroyed by them. Your empire is collapsing." It was true. The broadcast of humanity's defiance had ignited something that had been smoldering for centuries. On world after world, species that had been ground under the hegemony's heel were rising up. The humans had done more than win a battle. They had shattered the myth of Zephyrian invincibility. "This is impossible," Zekthal whispered. "We have ruled for 3,000 years. We are order. We are stability." "You were oppression," Chen replied. "And oppression always falls, eventually. The question is whether you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem." The admiral looked around his bridge at the faces of his remaining crew. They had served the hegemony faithfully, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. The certainty that had sustained their empire for millennia was cracking. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Peace," Chen said simply. "An end to the conquest. An end to the slavery. A chance for every species to determine its own fate. Work with us, and you can be part of building something better. Fight us, and you'll be swept aside by the tide of history." The choice was clear. Throughout the galaxy, the old order was crumbling. The hegemony's surviving fleets were surrendering or defecting. Their administrative worlds were declaring independence. The empire that had seemed eternal was dissolving in a matter of days. Admiral Zekthal made his decision. He reached for his console and sent a single command to every remaining Zephyrian vessel. "Ceasefire. All units stand down." The battle for humanity's survival was over. The war for galactic freedom had begun. In the weeks that followed, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered at a space station hastily constructed in Earth's orbit. The Galactic Liberation Conference, as it came to be known, established the principles that would guide the new age: self-determination, mutual cooperation, and the absolute right of every species to remain free. Colonel Chen, now promoted to general, stood before the assembly as they ratified the charter that would replace the hegemony's iron rule. "We came together because we refused to kneel," she told the gathered delegates. "We found strength in unity, hope in defiance, and victory in our shared determination to remain free. Let this be our promise to future generations. Never again will any species be forced to bow to tyrants. Never again will conquest be allowed to masquerade as order. We stand together, or we fall apart." The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth. When humans are pushed to the edge, they don't fall off. They grow wings and learn to fly. And sometimes, they teach others to fly with them.